Bonjour, je m'appelle Megan Sad. That's about the entirety of my French, so I'm going to switch to English now. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for being here too. So I'm going to be making my French toast Monte Cristo from my book 30-Minute Vegan Dinners. So I'm excited about this to show you because it's actually 3 recipes in one. It's a French toast sandwich, sweet and savory. The tofu is apricot glaze, kind of smoky, a little bit reminiscent of honey glazed ham. And then I'll also be demoing a 5-minute cashew mozzarella recipe, and then, of course, the French toast as well. So let's get started. How many of you are vegan? Wow, that's a lot. And everyone here is vegan curious, so that's also really cool. I actually spent probably about 15 years on the outskirts, like thinking that it looked like a really awesome thing to try. And so I'm super excited that I'm actually vegan now, and I get to be here making food for everybody. So I always say that you don't have to give up dairy to go vegan, you just have to make cheese from different things. So it's a lot of the same flavors and textures that you're used to just from plant-based ingredients. So my secret to making vegan cheese in less than 5 minutes is by pre-soaking the cashews. So I always soak them for about 4 hours, or you can leave them overnight and then drain them. And then I leave mine in my freezer, so they're always ready to go. So I soaked mine earlier. If you're in a hurry, you can also boil them for about 10 minutes. So I've got my cashews, and that's going to give the cheese a really nice, creamy base. And then I'm adding tapioca flour, also called tapioca starch, and that's going to make the cheese very stretchy and melty. In this little ramekin, I've got nutritional yeast, which adds the cheesy flavor, and then I've also got some salt, pepper, and garlic, and a little lemon juice. And then I'm just going to add some water here. You want to make sure you add enough water so that when you blend the cheese, it actually has a very thin consistency at first. And I'm preheating the pan to make it really nice and hot because that's going to help it get really stretchy. So bear with me here while I turn this blender on for a few minutes. Once I figure out how to turn the lid on. All right. Not super loud since I'm on a mic, but yeah, so I started my Facebook page about 4 years ago. I've been vegan for 5 years, and I started making videos. I actually transitioned from my career as a TV producer because I wanted to really focus on making content that makes the world a better, brighter place. So I set my sights on making vegan videos instead of TV shows in LA so I could teach people how to make the food that I was really falling in love with. So this pan is starting to get pretty hot. This looks nice and creamy. So when you pour it in, you want to hear, I don't know if you can hear it, but you want to hear a really nice sizzling sound. That's going to let you know that the pan is hot enough to make the cheese really stretchy. If the pan doesn't sizzle, you want to pour it back into the blender and make sure the pan gets really hot, because otherwise it just doesn't get the stretchy feeling that you want. And so you just start stirring right away. You want to make sure that you scrape the bottom and the sides of the pan the whole time. So does anyone have any questions? Because this kind of goes on for a few minutes. Yes? You can use cornstarch, it just doesn't really get the same stretchiness. So I would definitely recommend tapioca starch if you can find it. Otherwise, it makes more of a cheese sauce than an actual stretchy cheese. Tatiana? Oh, it doesn't actually ever boil because you're stirring it so much, but you want the pan to be very hot because the part that comes into contact with the hot pan is the part that actually gets really stretchy. And so you want to just keep stirring it just to make sure that that part doesn't burn. It's going to take a couple more minutes while I'm stirring, so I'll tip the pan when it starts getting melty and stretchy to let you know. So this recipe is part of my cookbook, but I don't typically include it in the Monte Cristo recipe because I want to keep it under 30 minutes. But since I have 45 minutes with you all today, I thought I would demo the cheese as well, so we can have homemade cheese in the samples later. So it's starting to get, you can see it's starting to get just a little bit thick, and you just keep stirring. It usually takes about 3 to 5 minutes. On a stovetop, it's actually much faster because these little stoves don't get quite as hot. So you want to keep stirring until all the lumps are gone. There, it starts to get very stretchy. And so as you can see, it's just 5 minutes. And when I discovered how to make vegan cheese, especially so quickly, that's when I knew, it was like, okay, I can be vegan now. Like once you get the cheese under control, I think the rest is pretty easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this to the side for later. And we've got stretchy cheese. What? All from nuts. So it's really easy. So when people tell me like, oh, I can't be vegan because the food takes too long to make, that was really kind of the driving force behind me wanting to make all of my recipes in my first cookbook under 30 minutes, just to really dispel that myth that vegan food takes a long time. All right. So next up, we're going to make apricot glazed tofu. I like to use smoked or baked tofu because it has a little bit of a nicer texture. I think regular tofu, even firm and extra firm, it takes a little bit more time to process. I'm using a cooking oil spray for this to keep it a little more whole food plant-based, but you know, vegan butter melted tastes really good too. I actually haven't made this recipe in a while, so let me check out these ingredients. All right, make the glaze. So we are mixing the glaze ingredients in this medium bowl right here. So I've got some orange juice. I've got apricot jam. And brown sugar. A little bit of vanilla. And this is also a little bit sweet and savory. So I've got minced garlic, cloves, and some powdered ginger. And some tamari. So that's going to be the tofu glaze. So this is actually pretty easy. So once you put the tofu in the pan, which is already a little bit warm, pour the sauce into the pan. And that's going to just reduce down, so then I can move on to the French toast. So with a fully heated pan, that usually takes about 8 to 10 minutes. And so I can just move along right over here. Now for the French toast batter, let me wipe this bowl out really fast. And got some soy milk, chickpea flour, little brown sugar for sweetness, orange zest for flavor. The nutritional yeast actually gives it just that little hint of savory that you would normally get from eggs. A little dash of cinnamon and vanilla. Where is the whisk? All right. Let me preheat this pan over here. So even though this recipe has several components, it comes together really quickly. So for the French toast, I also use the cooking oil, but when you're making it at home, I definitely recommend melted vegan butter for the French toast. Tastes better than the cooking oil. Does anyone have any questions so far? I see some of you are furiously taking notes, and I like that. Gonna make this at home later. I'll link this to my Instagram stories too if you want to get the full recipe, just to share it with everybody. So this is starting to come to a boil a little bit, and this needs to really takes some time to get it down to reduce. Give it a little stir. Make sure it's not sticking. All right, we're smoking over here, so that's a good sign. We're ready. For the bread, I like to use the thickest white bread that I can find. I usually prefer a vegan brioche, which is very much a specialty ingredient that's not super easy to find because most brioche tends to have eggs in it. But the festival organizers were very helpful because I'm super specific about my ingredients, and they got me some like really nice, thick, fluffy bread. So you want to leave this out for a few minutes. You can even leave it out overnight because then the edges get just a little bit crusty, which is nice so the French toast stays not soggy. I'm going to turn the heat down just a touch over here. These are getting hot. So you just want to dip the bread in just gently. Got to get that nice sizzle. The recipe makes between 2 and 4 sandwiches, so it just depends on how thickly you want to stack. So I'll make the French toast one at a time. So the recipe does involve a little bit of multitasking, which I prefer. I'm a productive person. I like to get a lot of stuff done at one time. So we've got the cheese, the tofu going, French toast. I'm a big fan of sweet and savory recipes. I feel like it gives you the best of both worlds. So I always really like to combine those flavors. So this recipe comes from the food truck chapter in my book. I've got a lot of restaurant experience. I was in the hospitality industry for about 15 years. And so the chapters of my book are all organized by restaurant category. So I've got an Italian chapter, a lighter California cuisine chapter, American food truck, gastropub. I've got a Latin flair. Just because I feel like when you're deciding what you want to eat for dinner, it's usually a better idea if you decide what you're in the mood for first. And I thought it was a little more creative than, separating your book into soups and salads and smoothies. So this is starting to thicken up nicely. It still needs a few more minutes. Oh, yes. If you're organized, the recipes can be made in 30 minutes. We've got a hot spot here. Yeah, I had a group of 130 people helping me test the recipes to not just to make sure that they're delicious, but to make sure that the average home cook can make them in 30 minutes with the proper tools. So I definitely recommend, if you don't like spending a lot of time in the kitchen, I recommend getting a food processor because it can chop the vegetables for you. You just push it through a little chute. It's super, super fast. So I mentioned earlier that I was a TV producer and I switched careers so I could make a little bit more of a difference. And so I just want to talk about that a little bit more while things are cooking, because I think that, that everyone has their own unique special set of skills, and everyone who is driven about this cause and really wants to help the environment and help animals, there's so many different ways to do it. There's so many different forms of activism. Like for me, my activism is with food. I love to change people's minds and let them know that making vegan food is delicious and it's easy and it tastes better, I think, than most food. But so I just want to encourage everyone who really is passionate about veganism or wanting to do more. Like there's animal vigils in LA. I'm not sure if they've made it to Montreal, where people go and they bear witness outside of slaughterhouses and they see the pigs right before they're about to enter the facility, and it's a pretty powerful experience, really connecting to the animals and reminding everyone, why we do what we do. Because of course it is about food and it is about delicious things and helping the environment, but at the end of the day, I don't know. How many of you are vegan for the animals? Show of hands? All the way, right? 2 hands over here. So yes, thank you for your question. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I do have a lot of people asking me, oh, are you going to raise your daughter vegan? And to me, it's a no-brainer. Like, of course I would be raising her vegan. I think it's easy because I'm always in the kitchen, so it's not hard for me to prepare her food. Because she's so young, she doesn't really mind when she goes to school and sees all the other kids eating food that she can't have or doesn't want to have. So my husband is not vegan, actually. So that was a little bit of a point of contention between us when I was like, no, my daughter is vegan. And I told him, I was like, if you want to have another baby, then this baby is vegan. Like, not having a non-vegan child. So I had to put my foot down a little bit there, but he knows it's the better decision for health and stuff. And so he's just like, if you make the food, then she can be vegan. So I make all the lunches and all her breakfasts and stuff. All right. So the French toast here is getting a little bit ready to go. Just needs a few more minutes. Moving back and forth, yes? The chickpea flour, I don't notice any bitterness in this recipe, especially with all the other flavors. So I would, just until it's golden brown, it just depends on the heat of your stove. Like this one is a little, this particular stove, there's some hot spots, so I'm having to flip it a lot. But on a regular stove, just until it's golden brown, so usually about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. And you're good. Has anyone ever had a Monte Cristo before? Yeah? Yeah. All right, this is starting to thicken, so that's going to be really nice very soon. And you guys are all in luck because we're going to want everyone who is not vegan can be first in line to sample the food because we want you to renouncing veganism to try this. I can make you one later. All right. This is getting a little. All right. Mm-hmm. I think the most challenging recipes are the ones that are most intimidating to people are really long ingredients lists. And some of my recipes do tend to have a lot of ingredients because to build flavor in 30 minutes, it really requires the use of a lot of spices. So I always recommend to people who really want to be able to make delicious vegan food very quickly is to have just a very well organized spice section and a very well stocked spice section. I like to go to my local health food store because then they have bulk spices that you can just buy little portions of, so then your spices are always really fresh. And then you're not spending $8 on a bottle of something you need a quarter teaspoon of. So, but yeah, I try to keep most of the recipes in my book are, even though it's comfort food, they are on the whole food plant-based side just because I want everyone to be able to eat from it. All right, I'm gonna try. This pan is not my friend today. Half of it is cooking and half of it is not. There we go. I'll just move it. Sorry for the smoke in the front row. You guys okay? Can you breathe? Does it? That's good. Does anyone else have questions? Just up here stirring this sauce. Ooh. All right, the question is, what do I eat before and after a workout? Okay, thanks, Valerie. Before a workout, I usually just have a smoothie in the morning. I like to have like a nice protein powder in it, usually one that is more whole food plant-based. And then after a workout, I'll try to have like a salad with tofu. But I mean, I'm really busy. I usually just end up eating whatever I'm cooking at the moment. So. But I do eat a lot of smoothies, and I'm just now having a lot more juice as well. All right, so this is almost out of batter. We'll see if we can get one more slice. I do put spinach in. I haven't started yet, but I'm hearing that steamed cauliflower, sorry about that. I'm hearing that steamed cauliflower is a good way to add a little bit of extra nutrition to your smoothies. I haven't tried it yet, but my daughter does not like a lot of different vegetables right now, which is frustrating. So I do try to sneak it into her smoothies whenever I can. So this is probably the part of the recipe that takes the longest is reducing this down to a glaze. So you just want to make sure have it all the way up. I'm going to move this pan over a little See if it starts cooking a little more evenly. And then let's check in with our cheese. So this cheese, it's mozzarella, but it's actually more similar to like a burrata style cheese. So this type of cheese is really good for like quesadillas, for grilled cheese. But then you can also put it into like a 1-inch lipped plate. And then I like to cut out little circles with a biscuit cutter to make like a little vegan caprese.
Does the cheese melt?
The cheese, well, it starts, since it starts pretty stretchy, it doesn't get meltier than this. And when you're reheating, it does need a lot of heat to get stretchy again. There's a lot of different, I'm working on my second cookbook now, which will have a whole cheese chapter, because there's a lot of different ingredients and different ways that you can make cheese that actually does slice and grate and melt. Takes a little bit of specialty ingredients, but these days, you have Amazon in Canada, yeah? With Amazon, you can save yourself the trip to 4 grocery stores looking for seaweed powder to make your cheese right. You can just order it. So it's pretty convenient. Right. So I will start assembling the sandwiches. So once you've got your French toast, then you just want to get a little bit of raspberry jam. I'll put raspberry jam on one slice and cheese on the other. If you're not a fan of sweet and savory, this sandwich is not for you. But if you are, you'll probably love it. And I do have a lot of, just regular savory recipes in my cookbook. I am doing a signing after this over there at 3 if anyone wants to come swing by. All right, so we've got the jam on one side, the cheese on the other side. This is getting so close. We're almost ready. You want to get the sauce to be really nice and thick so it kind of just clings to the tofu. You guys hungry? Have you been eating delicious things so far? Oh, thank you. Yeah. What's your favorite thing you ate today? Sushi Momo, I've been hearing about that place. I tried Bloom Sushi for the first time last night. I just got to Montreal, so it's like the first restaurant I went to, but I was just blown away. I'm from Los Angeles, and we don't have anything like that there. Not that good and not that pretty. Definitely recommend to all you lucky people who get to live anywhere near Bloom Sushi. But I'll have to check out Sushi Momo.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. But it was super nice, really good service. Everyone was friendly. All right. Gonna finish up the jam, and this is almost done. I want to play a little game here. Has anyone been vegan over 15 years? We got one hand. This man in the back is the longest vegan in the room. Everybody give him a hand. And did anybody just go vegan like yesterday so we can celebrate our newest vegan? 3 days ago, recently, last week?
Is anyone here not vegan at all? And just here out of curiosity? Yeah, good job. Thanks for coming, guys. Stick around. We might have something for you guys at the end.
All right.
She said it?
I did. I'm so bad at secrets.
You don't even need me.
I'm bad at surprises. I tell everybody everything.
You're like a child.
It's true. Okay, so now the tofu's basically done. All of the sauce is nice and sticky. I don't know how to turn this off. It's okay. All right. We'll just layer a few pieces on each sandwich. I definitely recommend making the French toast at home with melted vegan butter. It really makes a huge difference. I didn't include it in my book because I want to keep it really open for people who are whole food plant-based. But, melted vegan butter, especially the Miyokos, it's really good. No. When I say vegan butter, it's No, I usually use Earth Balance or Miyoko's vegan butter style spread is usually what it would be called. Keep that one over here.
Does anyone else have any questions while she finishes plating? Anyone in the back who would like to say something?
That one is not super done either. All right. So we are almost ready. I'm going to make one more half sandwich, and that is done. I can cut this up for some samples. Yeah, this cheese works really well. I didn't stir it enough, so it's a little lumpy still, but normally it's pretty smooth. The cheese works really well. I like to dollop it into a lasagna, put it in sandwiches. Usually always a little bit different, because yeah, sometimes, the acidity of the lemon juice might be different, or I just came back from Burning Man. It's a festival in Reno, outside of Reno, and I was making a big dinner for my camp, and it was like a panic moment, because I made one of my cookbook recipes, but I did it on such a large scale, and the canned tomatoes that I used were very acidic, and so it took 4 chefs in the kitchen all tasting to balance the flavors. So yeah, you definitely, when cooking, want to use your intuition, taste often, season often. All right. Yeah, we're ready to sample. Wait, let me turn this over. Got the beauty shot here. I did wash my hands thoroughly before I started too, just so we're all on the same page there. I will say the sandwich it's on the messy side. It's like a more indulgent kind of get your fingers dirty type of food. Yeah. That's it. In addition to my cookbook, I also post a lot of free content on my website and on my Facebook page. So if you want to check it out, my Instagram is carrots and flowers, all spelled out. Facebook is the same. Get that tucked back in there. And my most popular recipe is probably my 20-minute vegan quesadillas, which I actually included in my cookbook. They're so easy. They're homemade. I'm part of a program that goes into schools to teach parents how to make plant-based food for their kids. And I was at a school in California cooking for a group of Latina mothers. We had a Spanish translator and everything, and they told me afterwards that they liked my quesadillas more than the ones that they traditionally make. And they were just blown away, because they'd never heard before that dairy's not good for you, because the government, subsidizes the dairy industry, and there's lots of marketing campaigns to tell you otherwise. So it was a really exciting experience. I really love being able to make food for people who have never tried vegan cheese before. It's always really cool. So, oh my God, that would be too much pressure, I think. Too much pressure. Any more questions before I wrap this up? Anything? Yeah? Sure, yeah, okay. Living with a non-vegan partner. He's pretty good. He likes to eat a lot of vegan food, but he does get frustrated. He doesn't like to cook. It gives him anxiety, so he opens the fridge and he sees potatoes and carrots, and he's like, there's nothing to eat. I'm like, the fridge is literally packed full of food. What do you mean there's nothing to eat? So I try to make it really easy for him. I've started recently allowing eggs in my fridge, which is a new thing. But I just, I want him to be comfortable enough to allow me to raise our children vegan, so I try to make some compromises. And he doesn't really eat meat or cheese or anything around me, but there have been some intense conversations about it. Even the other day, he was just like, I don't think Lily's getting the right food. I'm like, she's a 3-year-old. She doesn't want to eat broccoli. Like, I assure you she's eating healthier than her friends at school because I've seen what they eat. I mean, even if my daughter wasn't vegan, the food that they give her at school is just like animal crackers and sausages and just not good stuff. So, but yeah, when we always go to vegan restaurants, so he's not like a super hardcore meat eater, so I am lucky in that sense. But all right, I'm just going to garnish these just with a little bit of powdered sugar and a little drizzle of maple syrup for the finishing touch. The French toast did not cook as perfectly as I would have liked. Sometimes when you're working not on a traditional stovetop, things can turn out a little differently, which is fine. But hoping all the soon-to-be vegans out there will enjoy the samples. All right. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for being here and for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to come up and ask me one-on-one.